It happens in a fraction of a second. You're just picking up groceries for dinner. A normal Tuesday. Then, the floor disappears. Your feet go out from under you. Your back slams against the hard linoleum. And suddenly, the world is spinning. You feel the pain. Sharp, radiating, terrifying. But the pain is only the beginning. As you lie there, you look up. You don't see help. You see stares. You see managers pointing at their watches. You see people filming with their phones. And in that moment, you realize the most bitter truth. To them, you aren't a person in pain. You are a liability. You are a problem to be moved out of the aisle as fast as possible. Every year, millions of Americans experience this nightmare, and most of them walk out of that store with nothing but a bruised ego and a mounting stack of medical bills. They tell you it was your fault. They tell you that you weren't looking where you were going. But what if I told you that the trap wasn't the spill itself? But what happened in the seconds before you even walked through those sliding doors? So, here is the logical step. You file a report. You think the store has insurance. They'll want to do the right thing. You believe that because you are a loyal customer, they will value your health. This is the first, most dangerous illusion. You sit in the manager's office. You're in pain. You're adrenaline-filled, and you just want it to be over. You sign a paper that says, "I didn't see anything on the floor." You want to be polite. You want to be easy. That signature, that single piece of paper is often the weapon they will use to destroy your case later. You walk home thinking, "It's okay. They have my information. They'll call." But days pass. The pain in your shoulder, your back, or your knee doesn't fade. It intensifies. You go to the doctor, and the bill arrives. Then you call the store, and the person who was so helpful at the time is nowhere to be found. The insurance adjuster finally calls, but they don't sound concerned. They sound robotic. They ask questions you aren't prepared to answer. They ask about your shoes, about your phone usage, about your history of back pain. And you start to feel it. The trap is closing. You are trying to play a fair game in a courtroom where the rules were written by the people who want you to pay for your own injuries. And the worst part? You haven't even reached the middle of this mess yet. Because what you don't know, what they definitely won't tell you, is that there is a precise legal threshold for negligence that they are waiting for you to trip over. Quite literally. But why is the law so heavily stacked against the person who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time? To understand that, we need to go back to a time before retail giants dominated every street corner in America. To truly grasp why your claim is being denied, we have to travel back in time. For most of the 20th century, the legal standard for premise liability was incredibly simple. If a store owner knew of a danger, they had to warn you. It was a relationship built on local trust. You knew the grocer, and the grocer knew the store floors. But as retail became corporate, the law struggled to catch up. In the 1970s and 80s, courts began wrestling with a massive question. How can a store be responsible for a spill if it happened just seconds before a customer walked by? This led to the landmark legal doctrine of constructive notice. Here is the worst problem you face. The law now requires you to prove not just that the spill existed, but that it existed for such a length of time that a reasonable store owner should have known about it and cleaned it up. This is the corporate shield. They use this notice requirement to argue that the oil, the water, or the debris only appeared seconds before you slipped. Think about the injustice here. You are the one in the emergency room, yet the burden of proof is entirely on your shoulders to reconstruct the timeline of a store's maintenance. They have the cameras, they have the logs, and they have the staff. You have nothing. This is why the insurance adjuster dismisses you so easily. They are counting on the fact that you don't know how to pierce that corporate veil. They are betting on your silence. So, how do we break the corporate shield? You stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like an investigator. You need three things to build a case that cannot be ignored. First, notice. You need to prove the store had actual or constructive knowledge. Did an employee walk by the spill twice without cleaning it? Was there a faulty refrigerator leaking for 3 days? That is your golden ticket. Second, causation. You have to bridge the gap between the slip and the injury. If you had a previous back condition, they will use it to blame your current pain on the past. You need medical experts who can distinguish between pre-existing conditions and new traumatic injuries. And third, comparative negligence. In many states, even if you were 20% at fault for not seeing the spill, you can still recover for the remaining 80%. Don't let them convince you that because you weren't looking down at the floor every single second, your case is void. That is a legal bluff. Know your local statutes because they are your strongest weapon against their intimidation. At the end of the day, a slip and fall isn't just about a spill. It's about accountability. When a corporation chooses profit over safety, and when they choose to ignore the suffering they've caused, the law is the only language that can force them to listen. You don't have to be a legal expert to protect your rights, but you must be prepared. Document everything. Seek medical attention immediately. And never, ever sign a waiver or a statement while you are still in shock. Your recovery, physically and financially, depends on the steps you take in the first 24 hours. The system is complex, but it is not impenetrable. If you've been injured due to someone else's negligence, don't walk away with the bills. Stand up for your right to be made whole again. If this breakdown helped you see through the corporate fog, hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into American law. Knowledge is your best power. See you in the next one.